All right, what is up, cyber traders? Welcome on back here this Tuesday, end of the month, November 30th, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, at this time of the day, welcome on back for our afternoon meeting. Great to see all of our students and members alike inside the cyber group room today, including Norman, Susie, Michelle, Brian. Great to see you all. Buongiorno to my Italian friend Andrea. Ron W says hi. Welcome back, everybody. And of course, if you're joining us back on social media, Facebook Live or YouTube, welcome on back. So without further ado, no better place to start than right at the top. CPIX is still up just about 97, 98% heading into the afternoon. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make for a great trade across the next, 75, 80 minutes here. But it's to say, at least from this morning and then from the after hours even yesterday, this ended up making for a nice trade at first, ended up, popping as soon as the market opened up. And fortunately for us, pardon me. Fortunately for us, this ended up building support pretty nicely right off of $4.30 initial resistance that we had from the pre-market. So easy to say, but this ended up moving up pretty nicely right up off that 430 price, moved up just over a buck, ended up topping off high of the day at $5.39. Right now it's pulled back down. It dropped down towards 4. It held generally above 4 just a moment ago, but it's right back to that same area, that same resistance at 430. So, it's just to say, for as much as we had this build as support throughout the early morning going into the early afternoon, well, it broke under. It broke under that support. So I would assume initially for that support to now become resistance and for this to make its way back down. I would expect this to pull back down very soon. If it doesn't by the end of this meeting, if we come back to this and it's still pretty strong and holding above 430, maybe I'd reconsider. Maybe I would. Good order book, cheap stock. It's trading a lot of volume today. So I think it's that reason as to why the stock is going to be more exhausted right now and going forward. We'll see, though. We'll see what happens. We don't have class this afternoon. We don't have Bitcoin to talk about this afternoon. But I want to take my time and go across some of the other stocks that we ended up trading from this morning. I could probably just go right across the gainers list to do so, but I want to talk briefly about a stock, PPSI. This was one also from the morning and in pre-market that we saw the stock make a really big pop early on from 10 up to 13. Then again, going into the open, unfortunately, the stock was trending down leading into the open. From 8 o'clock, 8:30, all the way to the market open, it was dropping. So what that indicates is that we're seeing more selling at the time, which means that hey, if this stock pops right out the gate, it better make a really big pop and continued move up. Otherwise, and it's easy to say this, but generally speaking, where this stock broke down from early in the pre-market as support, 1180-ish, 1175 perhaps, generally speaking, and that held as resistance, it popped above it, but came right back down and crashed. So no surprise to see this PPSI stock continue its move heading into the mid to late morning. Now, I will say I left a ton of money on the table on this last trade. I stepped away from my desk for a little bit after traders talk. I came back and I still wasn't really interested in trading, really kind of just taking my sweet time. But with that in mind, hey, this stock wasn't really beginning to break any lower. It was building back up. I ended up taking an 8-cent loss on my first attempt, but the stock ended up providing a pretty decent opportunity where it broke back over the bottom blue line I just drew there, basically at 880. So I ended up jumping in this trade right here, and it pushed up nicely. I got out at like 912 or 911, and obviously that's where you could tell I left a ton of money on the table for this type of trade. Hey, this is the second win type of move, so it's not going to be a surprise to see this pull back down at this point. It already moved up just about, a dollar and a half, actually like $2, if not more, off the lows. So I feel like the run is done on this trade right now. Again, if we come back to this stock at the end of the meeting and it ends up making a bigger pop, then maybe I'll reconsider. But I'll kind of group this in the same category as the CPIX trade. All right. Now, a stock that's also on the top of the gainers list right now, Norman had called it out before we started the meeting. The ARDX stock, this ended up making a nice little pop. I kind of turned away from it pretty quick. The reason I turned away from it quick wasn't because it was a bad call out. No, it was a good call out. It's to say, though, that this stock has been a gigantic tease for us over the last 6 months. Really, we saw the stock get crushed going back into early July, down over 86% that day. You would hope to see some sort of dead cat bounce, some sort of temporary squeeze up, at least that day, but it didn't. And we know if it's not going to give us that opportunity that day, it might be a while before it gives us that opportunity. So, generally speaking, since that time, this stock has made a couple of little inches up in pre-market. Like this day here, it was a day where we saw a lot of activity in the pre-market to let it to run up, but then crashed right back down. Same thing happened here. So for right now, in terms of the intraday chart, the 1 minute, this looks great. I don't mind putting this on our list right now. Now, that said, though, if the volume begins to suddenly drop off, then I would be really careful on this trade because, granted, it's not moving 30 cents a minute like, some of the other high flyers, but this stock's really cheap. So you might feel more confident to trade more shares given it's a less expensive stock. Well, hey, it's just to say at least, 6 cent loss on 1,000 shares. That's like maybe like a penny loss on 6,000 shares, right? So, you got to know your worth on a stock like this. I'm going to put this on our list for right now, but it wouldn't shock me if this makes a big slam back down, perhaps even right to a buck. All right, I'll tell you what, we'll go right from top to bottom now at this point because we already talked about PPSI, we talked about the ARDX, the CPIX. That's three of the top four. And going into this meeting, I was calling out the MEIP trade, just saying that it was near the highs, and well, it's broken the highs, I believe, since. Hmm, Eh, topped off right there. We were watching the stock when it was at like 323, 324 right before we started the meeting. So for right now, easily enough, this thing looks great. Really strong in its direction, cheap, filled an order book. Perfect. This stock is everything that we would want to see at this time of the day. All right, we'll keep it going otherwise, though. And that's where I say I'd much rather follow MEIP as of now compared to PPSI. I mean, PPSI I just think has made too extreme of a move from up to down to chopping around, back to up here. I just don't expect it to make this big elaborate move back up to the pre market highs. If it were to do that, then God bless, because that just simply does not happen too often. So. IMGN, hey, this stock we did talk about to a good extent in Traders Talk, our weekly Q&A workshop that we conduct inside Cyber Group every Tuesday. This stock was a great short. I was looking for the short on this stock as soon as the market opened up. It was such a good short that it dropped too fast. It really provided me little opportunity within the first couple of minutes. I was hoping more for like a pop up at first, then maybe a chance for it to slam back under 7. I mean, it just dropped as soon as the market opened. That was it. So, unfortunately, I didn't short this stock at all. In fact, I was looking for a long opportunity earlier, and I ended up getting some money out of it. But since it's been choppy, so it's just for me to say I ended up jumping into this trade. I took a 4 cent loss at first, then I jumped back in and got decent, like 13, 15, however many cents, but maybe more. Just once this pulled back under and over that line I drew on my daily chart, 585, 586, you could just see from the last few days here, from like a week or two ago, holding really well as a top. 585, 584. You could see on this chart here on the 1 minute, pretty well laid out. It broke under and back over it right here. I took my loss at first here and stopped me out. Then I jumped back in here later on and got the squeeze back up. But at this stage right now, it's trading like 50 million shares. It's just very choppy of a move. So, I was hopeful for that historical level to hold, and it did, but I'm not expecting a whole lot more out of this trade, IMGN. Maybe check back in with it tomorrow morning. This could be a good sideless stock for the remainder of the week. It's shortable, so if it fails to really get going back on the way up, then perhaps it could be another short trade again. All right, so we keep it going for right now. GBS pop and drop already across the intraday, and I feel like this stock's been a pop and drop stock in the past. I mean, you could just look at the daily chart. That kind of speaks for itself. We have the NUZE stock, or NUZE, however you may pronounce it. My speech impediment will probably screw me up on that, but nonetheless, NUZE made a big move up early today before the afternoon even started. Came all the way back down. It made the second win type of move here, but obviously it really failed to make the pop up higher. And then from now, it just pulled back. So I don't know, not really much going on here. So IBRX, this could be interesting. This could be interesting. I mean, it made a big move up. It pulled back, but it did push back up, and hell of a lot closer to the highs than it is to the lows, and hell of a lot closer to the highs now compared to some of the other stocks we've looked at thus far. I'll come back to this at the end. Not fully committed yet, but I'll keep it on the side. What was that? IBRX. This MCRB looking at least a little bit better as of right now. It's at the highs, and it's a potential gap fill looking at the daily chart. So this one I'll definitely give the thumbs up to. MCRB. I mean, it's like a grinder of a trade as of right now, very steady off the lows, but it's, a grinder of a trade, a little choppy on its way up. But again, the reason I like this stock more than the IBRX, at least what's more interesting to me, is the gap fill opportunity on the daily chart dating back to like mid-July there. All right, so we keep it pushing, we keep it going. VIR, VHC, LCTX. Couple of familiar names. PALT is also a slightly familiar name. Nah, not a whole lot happening yet on this trade. Popped up earlier. GRTS, nice little volume spike to make the new high of the day on this trade. Order book a little bit more thin compared to that MCRB, and MCRB is also the gap fill opportunity that we were looking at there. So in the sense of the pattern that you're looking at on the intraday chart, they're similar, but I like the MCRB a little bit more. I don't know. Kind of see what else is out there. Blue Apron, spotty chart, albeit at the highs, but not a whole lot to write home about here too. I'll tell you what, we got to be a little picky here now at this point. We have so far 3 stocks that made the watch list, and I don't mind adding more, but I'm not going to be fully committed unless if anything looks that great. I shouldn't have clicked Zen. I don't know why I did. The second I saw it was $101 stock, I shouldn't have clicked it. All right, we'll hop over to the loser side. What's this AERC that's getting smoked, down like 76% right now? And pushing back up. Wow, I'm late to the draw on this trade. It looks like really volatile, really thin order book. Don't get me wrong, I'm not as much of a fan of seeing that. But damn, this stock took a gigantic hit. Damn, I missed out on this trade. I mean, granted, again, very thin order book, so it's hard to call it out. But let's take a look. What was the news on this trade? All right, so looks like the news that came out. Damn, it doesn't even give me a great headline here, actually. Makes for bad radio right now, folks. I apologize, but trying to look up the news here on this AERC. You know what? So much so, I don't mind showing my Benzinga Pro page. This is what I'm kind of sifting through right now. Just doesn't really give you any sort of clarity. Really, doesn't really give you too much. This is from Wednesday last week. I don't think that affects the move from today out of nowhere. Uh, Got nothing. If you have anything, folks, anyone on social media or cyber group, let me know. It's not necessary. It's just interesting to note. But for right now, I mean, hey, it's making just about a 10, 12 point move on the way up. It's definitely a level 5 stock, unless if you're a very skilled, experienced day trader here with us. I really wouldn't want you to be trading it. Unless, like I said, you're very skilled and proficient as a day trader with CTU. So I'll put it on our list for those folks. But again, otherwise, that MEIP, the ARDX right now, unless if that tanked, I mean, those look pretty strong in their own right, too. Damn, Charles says PPSI is trying to break 11 right now. Really? It did pop up a bit more. We last left off on this trade when it was like prancing around 10 right here. So it made a nice accelerated push up towards 11. This last shake here, though, isn't really too comforting. All right, I'll come back to it at the very end, like I had originally said, but it's a good heads up from Charles Z there in the chat board. All right. Let's see if there's anything looking just even better on the loser side. Normally, to be honest, there's not. I just want to check out this list here first. BZUN, $13 stock, down over 10%. Not really much to work off of there. ARRY, this could be kind of interesting. I saw this on the losers list earlier this afternoon. It's not really making a great trend. That's my gripe with it. But otherwise, tight order book and pretty liquid within our price range. I'll tell you what, PPSI as of right now, I'll give the thumbs up to, at least on putting it on our watch list. Granted, if this completely tanks right now and drops off in the coming minutes after we finish up this meeting, then I feel like you should know what's going to come afterwards. I mean, it should probably just totally die off at that point if it ends up breaking support here. So we'll see. Not looking that great now over the last minute. Folks, if you have anything else left for me, up, down, left, right, more than 5%, of course, type it in the chat boards right now. I'm talking to all of us here on social media and, of course, all of us in Cyber Group. IBRX was a stock that we'd said we'd come back to. I'm not going to put this on our list right now, not just because it hasn't broken up higher yet, but the volume's been tremendously weighting down. I mean, you can just see right now the stock's only trading about 5 or 5,500 shares per minute. It's not a whole lot that we would want to see at this time. TOMZ from Mark. Wow, yeah, I guess, as we were going from top to bottom, this was going from bottom to top. Just got halted. Wow, really good heads up there. I mean, either way, just so all of us know on social media, because, for all of us in social media, you have the chance to join us live in our trading room every day. All you got to do is go right down to the link on the bottom of the stream there. But otherwise, it's to say, as soon as we finish up the meeting, if there's a stock that makes this type of pop, of course, we're going to call it out and focus on it and put it on our list afterwards. So that's where I say, hey, if you want to continue with us live, all you got to do is just join us by going right down to the link on the banner below. And you can join us for Tom's and all the other call outs that we'll be making coming up at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So great call from Mark S. inside Cyber Group on this Tom's trade. Should reopen up at 2:48 and 22 seconds. Ron commenting on Apple at the high of the day. That's nice to see. Little outside our price range. OTMO popping up from Mitch on YouTube, joining late. Not sure if you went over it. I did not go over this yet. It looks good. Not a fan of it, though. The volume's really thin. Really light volume across the whole day. So it popped up and it did get halted, just like the Tom's trade did. But if we're kind of comparing apples to oranges here, Tom's is trading like 4 times more volume right now, it seems, right? So that's where my focus would rather be as of right now. All right. Not a bad call, though. I appreciate that call out on the OTMO there, Mitch. VPRX. How about this? This is one I see on Benzinga. I didn't know what the chart would look like. I'm going to give a note to this also because it's not really trading a whole lot of volume across the day. It popped up on my Benzinga newsfeed, so just wanted to check it out there quickly. It's at the highs. Tom's just reopened up. There we go. 2:48 came a hell of a lot faster than I thought. I wasn't really looking at the time on my desktop. I was looking at the time on the time and sales. So I knew at 2:48 and 28 seconds it would reopen up, but I didn't realize when exactly that would come. All right, so there we go, folks. I think that we're pretty much all set. This Tom's trade is speaking for itself here. So all in all, we got 2, 4, 6 stocks to work with. I said it yesterday, and I'll say it again today. I think the shoe just fits. We don't need to have 20 stocks, 15 stocks on our watch list to perform well. I'd like to have more than 2 or 3 at least. So that's where I say anywhere between like 6, 5, 9 stocks on our list. I feel like that's a pretty middle of the road list right there. And definitely with this Tom's trade, with the ARDX still making a good move, I feel like we could be in line for a pretty nice afternoon, folks. All right. For all of us joining us on Facebook Live, YouTube, I appreciate you sticking with me each and every day, each and every afternoon. If you'd like to learn more about Cyber Trading University, as I had mentioned before, you can go right down to the link on the banner below. But I'm also going to toss my email here in the chat board. If you have any questions prior to joining us in the trading room, you can always send over a quick email, josh@ctutrading.com. It takes me pretty much a day or so to respond back. I mean, typically I'm talking to our students inside the trading room from market open to market close. So maybe later on this afternoon or evening, I'll be able to write back. All right, folks. But aside from that, for Norman, for Ron, for Mark, for Charles, for Grant, and all of us otherwise inside Cyber Group, I look forward to talking to you folks later on today. Take care.